In the last lesson, we learned about the Agile Manifesto, the 12 principles of Agile. We compared an Agile lifecycle to a traditional waterfall lifecycle, and were introduced to Scrum. In this lesson, we'll look at how an Agile project uses user stories and a product backlog to define and prioritize work in an Agile project. We'll also use a case study to look at example user stories. By the end of the lesson, you'll be able to write sample user stories and organize them in a product backlog. In Lesson 1, we introduced a case study that will be used throughout the remainder of this course. Your web design company was just selected to work on a new website for AutoWorld, a growing car dealership. This case study will be used to demonstrate how Agile methodologies can be used in digital media projects. If you've worked with traditional software or digital media projects before, you may have heard the terms use case or business case. Agile projects use a similar approach, but with a greater focus on the user. Agile projects' requirements are based on user stories. According to Mountain Goat Software, a user story is just a simple description of a feature told from the perspective of the person who wants or needs the feature. This is usually the user. User stories are frequently written at the beginning of a project during meetings with the customer. In addition to the user stories written at the beginning of a project, they're also written throughout the project as new wants and needs are identified. Once a project started, user stories are often submitted to a database using a project management tool. Anyone can write user stories, but hopefully a business analyst has the opportunity to sit down with the customer to write user stories at the beginning of the project. Other than user stories focusing more on the user, you may be wondering how they're different from more traditional use cases and business cases. Use cases and business cases generally look more like system requirements and can often be multiple pages in length. User stories, on the other hand, are usually just a couple of sentences long and follow a specific format that includes 3 parts. First, the type of user. Second, what the user wants. And third, why the user wants it. Many people think that Agile projects do not have detailed requirements, but that's not always true. User stories may have multiple associated files like detailed requirements, spreadsheets, graphics, mockups, etc. Really anything that the team wants is okay. Now that you're familiar with the format of a typical user story, let's look at a couple of examples for our case study. Since the website will affect various departments at AutoWorld and will even be used by its employees and customers were included in the process of writing user stories. As the parts manager, I need to be able to track inventory so I can make sure we have all the parts needed by the service team. As the services manager, I need customers to be able to see a live calendar so they can schedule their service appointments online. As a customer, I need to be able to find the lot location on a map so I can navigate to AutoWorld. As the sales manager, I need customers to be able to see a list of the current cars we have for sale. This list needs to be updated. As a marketing manager, I want the website to use our established style guide and graphics so customers automatically recognize AutoWorld when they see it. Some user stories describe such large features that they're called epics. If someone describes functionality that could be broken down into smaller pieces that could be delivered individually, then that's really an epic. In the case of the user story above, where the parts manager wants to be able to track inventory on the website, that could easily be called an epic and divided into smaller, more manageable user stories that could be delivered one at a time. If you're part of the project team working on this case study, you may be asking, where's the detail? There are a lot of steps necessary to make one of these user stories happen. User stories are divided into the smallest unit possible, which is the task. This helps to plan the work and assign tasks to multiple team members who have different skills. The story is what the customer needs. The tasks include the steps the project team needs to make to deliver the goods. All of the user stories for a product make up the product backlog. During initial meetings with the customer, an exhaustive list of user stories was written. There could be hundreds or even thousands of user stories. Assuming we've written over 100 user stories defining the features wanted for the new AutoWorld website, what do you do with all those? Later, during sprint planning, the team will decide which user stories to address first. Sprint planning is covered in Lesson 3.